Greetings, Victory Seekers. You're watching what could be the most important episode of Onward with Onrie yet. I'm your humble host, Henri Kompan. Now, why is this week's episode so important? Because we're going to dive into the core of my creative success, the Iron Skin philosophy. This philosophy is derived from the martial arts principle of developing an iron body to enhance strength and resilience to injury, because a warrior who does not feel pain is much harder to defeat in combat. This is the core of my approach to convention sales. I am used to rejection and therefore I do not fear it. In fact, I have learned to embrace it. Though I am not fearful of it, that does not make me impervious to it. I just accept that it's going to happen. A lot. Conventions are overwhelming. They can be stressful and they will wear you out. Therefore, it is essential to be prepared mentally and physically when you get on the floor and sell your work. The best way to do this is to simply breathe. Breathing is a key aspect of the Iron Skin philosophy. In through the nose and out through the mouth. Control your breaths and take them nice and slow. Breathing improves oxygen delivery to your lungs. It releases endorphins, lowers your blood pressure, and most importantly, relieves stress. Rejection is painful. It is the mental equivalent of getting punched in the gut. Being told that your work doesn't cut it is never easy. Whether it's getting a rejection letter from a publisher, or getting shut down by a passerby at a convention, or being told by a reviewer that your comic is just not good. There's no other way to put it. It just flat out sucks. Our first reaction to rejection is usually to build a defensive front to shield ourselves mentally. It is a negative reaction, and depending on your personality, you'll either be verbal or silent about it, but it will affect you nonetheless. It is human nature for our fight or flight instincts to kick in when we feel we're on the attack. In our own minds, we will always be justified. But here's the truth. A controlled response is the last thing anyone will ever expect, and it will always give you the upper hand. This is why implementing Iron Skin philosophy can be a game changer for your professional life. Iron Skin philosophy suggests that you approach any form of negativity strategically as opposed to defensively. You don't want to react emotionally. Remember, this isn't personal, it's business. Case in point, if someone rejects me at a convention after I pitch them, my response is not to display any form of disappointment. Instead, I thank my listener for hearing my pitch and invite them to return at a later point. As I've discussed many times on the show, people can reject you at conventions for a wide variety of reasons. They could be broke, they may just not be interested in what you're selling, and that's okay. Some people will also just be rude. Don't give them the response that they're looking for by bringing out a defensive front, because doing so could actually get you into trouble and could cost you. Just because someone doesn't want to buy your work today doesn't mean that they can't change their mind tomorrow. To effectively implement Iron Skin philosophy, you must allow for all forms of thinking and opinions to coexist, even if it's something you don't necessarily agree with. When my work gets ripped apart, and believe me it has, I have learned that there is no purpose to react to it publicly, because doing so only validates my critics' opinions, which in all honesty has no direct impact on my sales. And let's face it, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one, and just because someone doesn't like your work doesn't mean everyone doesn't like your work. Let's take a look at Rob Liefeld, whose work has been scrutinized on countless occasions, and yet he's still out there, producing stuff and working in this business and getting deals made. He has as many fans as he does haters, and even that can't stop him. He's obviously doing something right. The easiest way to understand the Iron Skin philosophy is that the best defense is goodwill. React to your skeptics with compassion, especially if and when they are attacking you. Showing respect for an opinion does not mean you need to abide by it. Flip the switch and no one will see it coming. Once people see that you are a humble and decent human being, your chances of winning them over go up dramatically. Do not seek gratification. The Iron Skin philosophy is designed to keep your eye on the big prize. In my case, it's selling out at conventions. The reality is that goodwill is not always rewarded externally, but accepting it internally will fill your heart with strength. Years ago, I was at a convention and got rejected by a customer who was distracted while I was pitching him, and because he wasn't paying attention, his 4-year-old son wandered off. He was extremely panicked. and I felt responsible. So I left my table and walked down the aisles in order to try and help him find his son. Luckily, they were reunited, no thanks to me. And though my assistance didn't trigger this man to buy anything for me, he was grateful. I felt good because I knew that if I was in his position, I would have wanted the person who distracted me to be helpful and not ignorant. Believe it or not, performing this act of goodwill gave me strength and allowed me to focus on my mission. Like breathing, this too gives you confidence, releases endorphins, and allows you to apply that focus to making the next sale. The Iron Skin philosophy is a deep-rooted subject that we will revisit in the future. As I bring this week's episode to a close, I want you all to understand that words and verbal attacks can do no physical harm to you. Learn to embrace it, and you will become stronger. All right, my friends, we'll see you next week with a brand new savory episode. Until then, onward to victory.